Welcome to Bookish and Beyond, where nonfiction comes to life. In each episode, we break down the world's most impactful books, from self-help to biographies. We dive into key takeaways, author insights, and modern parallels. Want more? Subscribers get exclusive access to our book summary, study guide, and timeline PDF, everything you need to go deeper. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Let's explore the books that change the way we think. This is Bookish and Beyond.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive. So today we are going to be diving deep into the beginning of Guidance by Imam Al-Ghazali. And we're going to be looking at some excerpts from a modern audiobook version of this classic. And actually, if you want to check out the whole thing, you can find it on YouTube.
That's awesome.
But we are here to give you like the VIP tour of this work. And what's really interesting about it is that it's not just for people who follow Islam.
Right.
It's like a self-improvement manual for anyone looking to live a more meaningful life.
It really is. And you know, one of the things that struck me is how relevant Al-Ghazali's advice is, even though he was writing centuries ago.
Right.
And he starts by talking about knowledge.
Okay.
But not just acquiring knowledge, but the why behind it.
The motivation for it.
Exactly.
Yeah, he goes deep into those motivations for seeking knowledge. And he actually categorizes knowledge seekers into three types.
That's right.
Those seeking the hereafter, those that have a worldly success, and those who are, let's say, a little too impressed with their own piety.
Yes, a little self-satisfied.
Yeah.
And he doesn't sugarcoat it either.
No, he doesn't.
He uses really powerful imagery, like demolishing your religion to describe the dangers of seeking knowledge for the wrong reasons.
Okay, so that's a pretty intense warning.
It is.
He's basically saying that if your heart's not in the right place, knowledge can actually lead you astray.
Yeah, it's like having a sports car but not knowing how to drive.
Right.
You're going to end up in the ditch.
Crashing,
Yeah, exactly.
It's all about intention.
It is.
Al-Ghazali wants us to be mindful of why we're learning. Because knowledge without the right purpose can be more harmful than helpful.
Absolutely. But then he talks about those who seek knowledge for the right reasons. And the rewards are incredible.
Yeah, what does he say?
Oh, he paints this amazing picture of angels spreading their wings.
Wow.
And even creatures in the sea seeking forgiveness for those who are sincere in their pursuit of knowledge.
That's pretty motivating, I have to say.
It is. It's inspiring.
Yeah. But then he moves on to piety.
Okay.
And this is where things get really interesting, I think.
He considers piety like the bedrock of guidance.
Okay.
That he breaks it down into two parts.
All right.
Outward piety, which is our actions, and inward piety, which is the state of our heart.
So it's like this two-sided coin.
It is.
You got to have both.
You have to.
Okay. So it's not just about doing the right things. It's about having the right mindset, too.
It's external. It's about what's going on internally as well.
Okay, I got it.
And he gets really specific, too, about outward piety.
Okay.
He focuses on the 7 organs that can lead to sin.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We're talking about the eyes, the ears, the tongue, stomach, private parts, hands, and feet.
So basically, like every part of your body.
Each one's a potential gateway to messing up.
It's a minefield out there.
It is.
Okay.
He even gives this one example.
Okay, what's that?
In the audiobook, this guy cracks a joke just to get a laugh and ends up in hell for 70 years because of it.
70 years for a joke.
For a joke.
Talk about consequences.
I know, right?
So he's really saying that every little thing we do matters.
It does. And this is where the idea of stewardship comes in.
Stewardship, okay.
He stresses that we are responsible for our own bodies.
Right.
And each part has a role to play in our journey toward guidance.
So it's not just about avoiding like the big no-nos.
It's not just about
the major sins.
Being mindful of all of our actions.
It is being mindful of the small things.
Yeah.
Even the seemingly insignificant things.
Okay, so outward piety is about actions. Yes.
But what about inward piety?
So inward piety.
What does he say about that?
He goes after those sneaky, destructive qualities that can hide in our hearts.
Like what?
Envy, showing off pride, vanity.
Okay. Yeah, those are tough ones.
He compares envy to fire-consuming wood.
Oh, wow.
It literally burns away any good deeds we might do.
So even if we're doing all the right things outwardly, but inside we're full of envy.
Exactly. It's not enough.
We're not really on the right path.
Not really.
Okay, so Al-Ghazali is showing us that our inner and outer worlds are totally linked.
Completely.
True piety means like cleaning up both.
Cleaning up both.
Not just one or the other.
Not one or the other.
This is making me think about my own life. Like, am I just going through the motions?
Right.
Or am I really trying to purify my heart too?
Yeah.
It's a lot to consider.
It is a lot. And this is just the beginning.
Oh, boy.
Because he goes on to talk about the importance of choosing the right companions.
The company we keep.
Yeah, which is something we all struggle with, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who hasn't had that friend who's, well, maybe not the best influence?
Right.
So that's where we'll pick up after the break. We'll be right back with more from the beginning of guidance. Don't go anywhere.
All right, so we're moving on to the company we keep. So we're back and talking about Al-Ghazali's advice on choosing our companions.
Right, and our friends can have a huge impact on us, but I think he breaks it down in a way that I had never considered before.
Okay, so what does he say?
Well, he actually gives us 5 specific qualities to look for in a companion.
5 qualities. Okay, lay them on me.
Intellect, good character, righteousness, detachment from worldly gain and honesty. It's like this checklist.
A checklist, okay.
To help us build a supportive and spiritually enriching circle of friends.
That's cool. It makes you kind of wonder if your friends would pass the test, right?
I know, right?
Haha.
He doesn't stop there, though.
What else does he say?
He gives this really fascinating observation. He says, one's nature unknowingly steals from the other's nature.
Okay, so explain that to me. What does that mean?
It's like we absorb those traits of the people we spend time with, whether we realize it or not.
So like that saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Exactly. And he's saying that our companions can either elevate us or drag us down. So choosing wisely is key.
Okay.
But he also recognizes that not every person we meet will be our best friend.
Right.
And so he also provides advice for those relationships, too.
You mean like acquaintances and even strangers?
Yeah.
So he's got us covered on all fronts.
He does.
Okay, cool. So what does he say about dealing with those people?
He emphasizes kindness, respect, and avoiding unnecessary conflict. So it's about striving to interact with everyone in a way that reflects our commitment to guidance, regardless of the nature of that relationship. Now, after companionship, Al-Ghazali gets into something super practical. A daily routine.
A routine.
Almost like a blueprint for spiritual growth.
A blueprint. Yeah. That sounds kind of intense.
I know, right?
Is he talking about something that we can actually incorporate into our lives?
It's not as overwhelming as it sounds. Basically, what he's suggesting is to incorporate worship, remembrance of God, and reflection into different parts of your day. He even gives these specific supplications and phrases to say at certain times.
Oh, wow. Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so one that I love is how he talks about the smell of the mouth of a fasting person is sweeter to Allah than the scent of musk.
Whoa.
It's a beautiful image that emphasizes even the significance of these seemingly small acts of devotion.
It's pretty poetic. I like it.
Yeah.
But how does this whole routine thing apply to someone living in today's world?
Right.
I mean, we're constantly like bombarded with information and demands on our time.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think his emphasis on routine can actually be incredibly helpful for modern life.
Really?
Because it's about bringing mindfulness and intentionality into a world that's often chaotic and distracting.
Okay.
So it can serve as a framework
for creating more peace and focus.
So it's like a counterbalance to all the craziness.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, he goes on to talk about prayer and fasting.
Okay.
And he makes it clear that these are much more than just outward actions.
Okay, so it's not enough to just go through the motions.
It's not just about going through the motions. It's about engaging with them on this deeper level.
We have to, mean it.
Yeah. He warns that prayer without presence of heart is basically useless.
Useless?
He even says that it's more liable to be punished.
Oh, wow.
It's a really strong message. That we need to be fully present and engaged when we pray and not just mindlessly reciting words.
So are there any tips he gives on how to stay focused during prayer?
Oh, he gives some practical tips.
Okay, like what?
One is to visualize someone that you respect, like a family member watching you pray.
Oh, okay.
To cultivate that sense of reverence and awareness.
So kind of like a mental trick?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that's prayer. What about fasting? So for fasting, he explains that true fasting isn't just about giving up food and drink. It's about restraining all our limbs from doing things that displease God.
Okay.
He compares it to a shield that protects us from harmful speech and actions.
Makes sense. It's like an exercise in self-control and mindfulness.
Exactly. And it resonates with a lot of modern practices like mindfulness and intermittent fasting.
Right.
It's about being more aware of our impulses and making conscious choices that align with our values.
So we've got the intention behind our actions. We're being mindful of the company we keep calling it. We're establishing a routine for spiritual growth, and we're approaching prayer and fasting with this deeper level of awareness.
Yes.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. It's all about this personal transformation.
Right.
But he doesn't just focus on individual growth. He also talks about the importance of purifying our actions and making sure they're truly for the sake of God.
Okay.
And to illustrate this point, he uses a really powerful analogy.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
It's a story about the Prophet Muhammad and his companion Muad. So Muad asks the Prophet for advice on attaining salvation.
Okay.
And the Prophet responds with this fascinating tale about 7 angels.
7 angels.
Guarding the different levels of heaven.
Each guarding a level.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as a person's deeds ascend towards God, each angel scrutinizes them, looking for any trace of insincerity or impurity.
So each level is like a test.
It's like a test.
And only those actions that are truly pure make it through.
Exactly. It's like your good deeds going through airport security for your soul.
That's a pretty intense image.
I know, right?
So even if we're doing good things but our intentions are off, it's all for nothing.
That's what he's saying.
Wow.
Our outward actions are only as good as the intentions behind them.
Okay.
Even if we're doing something charitable, but it's motivated by a desire for recognition or praise,
Not gonna fly.
it's not going to fly. It's like having a fake ID, you know?
Yeah.
You might get past the first few checkpoints,
Oh, right.
but eventually you're going to get caught.
Okay. That's a little scary, I have to say. I mean, how can we possibly live up to that kind of standard?
Well, Mood asked the same thing.
Oh.
He was like, how can anyone possibly be pure enough to pass all these tests?
Right.
And the Prophet responds with something that's both comforting and challenging. He says, "It is sufficient for you to love for people what you love for yourself and hate for them what you hate for yourself."
So basically like the golden rule.
Exactly.
Treat others as you want to be treated.
It's about recognizing our shared humanity and striving to treat everyone with kindness and fairness.
Okay.
So it's a reminder that true piety is not just about personal purification, but about extending that purity outward.
That's beautiful. This is making me think about all the times that I haven't been so kind or compassionate.
Right.
It's a good reminder to check myself and see if my actions are matching up with my values. But there's more to this analogy, right?
There is, and he uses this story to highlight the importance of constantly examining our hearts and making sure our actions are truly for the sake of God. He warns against seeking knowledge for worldly gain or social status, because those motivations will eventually lead to spiritual ruin.
It's like building a house on a shaky foundation.
It is.
It might look good for a while, but eventually it's all going to crumble.
Exactly. And so he urges us to purify our hearts, seek knowledge for the right reasons, and use our understanding to improve ourselves and the world around us. And he reminds us that true fulfillment comes from aligning ourselves with a higher purpose, not from chasing after this fleeting worldly success. This is the essence of the beginning of guidance.
Wow. We've covered so much in this deep dive. From seeking knowledge and practicing piety to choosing the right companions and engaging in prayer and fasting with sincerity. It's a pretty comprehensive guide to living a more meaningful life. And what's so amazing is that even though Al-Ghazali is coming from an Islamic perspective, his wisdom is really universal.
Absolutely. His teachings offer these really valuable insights for anyone, regardless of their background, who is looking to improve themselves and live a life of purpose.
I have to say, I'm feeling pretty inspired to take a closer look at my own life and see how I can incorporate some of these teachings. It's like he's giving us this roadmap.
Right.
But ultimately, the journey is ours to take.
It is. And remember, you can always delve deeper into Al-Ghazali's work by checking out the full audiobook on YouTube.
Yeah, definitely worth exploring further. So what are some key takeaways that you think listeners should be reflecting on?
I think the biggest takeaway is the power of intention.
Okay.
He constantly reminds us to check our motives and make sure our actions are coming from a genuine desire for growth and connection with something greater than ourselves.
I think the interconnectedness between our inner and outer world is another important point.
Yeah.
He shows us that true piety isn't just about avoiding bad deeds, but about purifying our hearts from negative traits,
Yes, absolutely.
like envy and arrogance. our thoughts and feelings directly impact our behavior. So it's crucial to cultivate that inner peace and clarity.
And I love how practical his teachings are. He doesn't just throw out these abstract concepts. He gives us concrete steps we can take to apply these principles to our daily lives. His guidance on choosing friends, establishing a spiritual routine, and engaging in prayer and fasting with sincerity are all tools we can use to build a more meaningful existence.
Okay, so we've covered a lot, but Al-Ghazali doesn't stop there. He actually wraps up this book with a really powerful call to action, challenging us to truly examine our hearts and make a conscious choice to live a life of meaning and purpose. We'll be right back to unpack this final message and see how we can apply it to our own lives. All right, so we are back. And Al-Ghazali doesn't just give us all this advice and then leave us hanging.
Right.
He gives us this powerful call to action.
It's like he's laying out this whole path to self-improvement, but he doesn't want us to just admire it. He wants us to actually do something with it.
Yeah, he's like that coach who's giving you the playbook and the training regimen, everything.
Exactly.
Everything.
Everything.
And now he's like, all right, get in the game.
Yeah.
And the game in this case is examining our own hearts.
Exactly. He wants us to be brutally honest with ourselves about why we're seeking knowledge and engaging in these spiritual practices.
Right.
We're doing it to show off, to climb some social ladder.
Are we just trying to look good?
Yeah.
Or there's something more to it?
Are we doing it for the sake of something bigger than ourselves?
Right. And he says those wrong reasons lead to spiritual ruin.
They do.
It's like building a mansion on a swamp.
Right.
You know, it might look impressive for a while.
Yeah, it's going to sink eventually.
But it's not going to last.
Exactly.
He warns us about getting caught up in the pursuit of worldly success or recognition.
It's all fleeting.
It's temporary.
Yeah.
So what does he say we should focus on?
He says true fulfillment comes from aligning ourselves with God's will and striving for a life of meaning and purpose.
Yeah, and that message is something that really resonates.
It does.
Even if you're not coming from an Islamic background. It's about figuring out what matters to you.
Right.
And then living a life that reflects those values.
I love that.
The beginning of guidance. It's not just a book. It's like an invitation.
It is.
To go on this journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
It's about becoming more aware of ourselves.
Right.
Purifying our hearts.
Yes.
And making choices that lead to that genuine happiness and fulfillment.
And it's a journey we can all take.
Exactly.
No matter where we're starting from.
This has been a really incredible deep dive.
It has.
Exploring all these different aspects of guidance.
Yeah.
From purifying our actions to choosing our friends wisely to approaching prayer and fasting with sincerity. What are some final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, I think the main takeaway is that this journey is ongoing.
Yeah.
It's not about reaching some perfect state of being.
Okay.
It's about constantly striving and learning and growing.
It's about those daily choices that we make.
It is.
That move us closer to our goals.
Yes.
And align with our values.
Al-Ghazali gives us the tools.
He does.
But it's up to us to put in the effort.
We have to actually use them.
Right. We have to be willing to challenge ourselves and never stop seeking that knowledge and guidance.
And this deep dive is coming to an end?
Yeah.
But your own exploration doesn't have to stop here.
Absolutely not. And you can delve even deeper into Al-Ghazali's work by checking out the full audiobooks
on YouTube.
On YouTube.
So as you go about your day, think about what resonated with you the most.
Yes.
What can you actually apply to your own life?
Exactly.
What changes can you make to create a more meaningful and fulfilling existence?
Every moment is an opportunity for growth and transformation.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
On this journey through the beginning of guidance.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.